the first thing that we have to understand is that we try to teach way too much content. And I mean, we just do. And I think if we can't figure out why we teach that content, we got to take a step back and think about like what's really happening right now. And I think the thing that I want to make sure that we kind of move ourselves to is this, the away from getting away from the regurgitation of content and the application of content, moving to application of content, in terms of what's going to help kids once they're gone. And there's a couple of things that really resonate with me when it comes to what we need to change. And one of the things is that I think we wait, we teach people how to lead throughout their course of their time here, but we don't really let them lead until they leave. So like we're developing the leaders of tomorrow. Well, let them lead. Like honestly, it's just like we don't we don't do it, and we don't do it with our staff enough. And I think a lot of times it's like, well, I know how I want it because it's got to be this way because it's always been this way, or because I know what it's supposed to look like that way. So I think it's just going to have to be that way. And when you do that, now you're just trying to create clones of yourself as a leader, and that's not good for anybody, especially me. Look at me. So what we want to do is to try to figure out ways that we can create opportunities for people to lead on their and build their own skill set, their own capacity. It doesn't matter if they're 4, 14, 24, or 44, man. Like give them an opportunity to lead. It may not look the way that you want it to, but at the same time, it's probably going to look better. And people are much less likely to knock things down that they help build. So figure out ways to get people moving together, and you're going to be in a much better situation.
Good stuff, Joe. You're teeing us up for our student leadership, student voice and leadership session coming up in a few weeks also. Brian, you want to follow that one up?
Yeah, I'll start with a quote from the Unlearning Leader book. I think it's on page 96 for everyone that has their copy, probably highlighted on some of you. Yeah. We have to unlearn old truths to begin to lead in new ways. And the word truths really struck me on that, because when we think about our system and our traditional system, it's true that it was built for a time that needed that kind of system. And it was actually effective at putting the United States in a position of power worldwide. Our school system produced competent factory workers who could follow directions and make things look the same way and replicate those. I think there are 3 areas that are key important areas to consider when looking at our current system compared to that factory model. We don't need factory workers anymore. We don't need people that don't think creatively. So we need a different product from our school system. We also know more about how to engage students in learning, how to make it personal, the importance of relevance and authenticity. Our only best tool back then when the system was developed, designed, was lecture. One size fits all lecture. And then the third thing is we have capacity through technology to deliver a much more personalized, engaging, and relevant. So because we need something different, we know something more about how to engage learners, and we have the ability to deliver something far better. It's embarrassing that we still have systems that look so much like the old system. So we need really to unlearn, especially in those 3 areas, I believe, because that's where our context is now. And just like the system was true to what it needed and what we could do and what we knew about learning back then, we now have changed on all 3 of those, and we need to build a system that reflects our new understanding.
Oh, well said. Faith, how about you?
Yeah, Brett, and I think you make such a great point. When I kind of look at our education system, even though it doesn't fulfill the needs of all our students, I do feel like it's doing what it was intended to do. It was really intended not to support all students, to support all learners. It feels like it's intended for a very specific type of learner, a very specific type of student. And so the system is really doing what it intended to do. And so, that's just, that's a whole nother conversation, probably a whole nother panel. With that said, though, I think, being in this pandemic, it has really kind of forced us to take a look at the systems and structures we had in place, because now we're getting rid of like the brick and mortar. So that setup we've had before that we thought kind of worked, now we're seeing actually didn't work very well at all. And so just like I said, just having students in the environment is not going to be the way that they're going to be engaged. And this has forced us to take a look at that. And so one of the things I think about schools, what this has exposed is we really are the gatekeepers to everything. When I thought about, we're getting phone calls from families who's like, well, how are you going to do the coat drive this year? Or how are we going to do, how are we going to do Girl Scouts? Are you going to do yearbook pictures? So many things around how making sure families got food, that schools are really the gatekeepers of the community. And so it let me also understand that we need to also build the capacity of community stakeholders as well as our families, so they feel too that they can support this effort. I feel like families don't feel like they have the confidence to support the work we're doing within the spaces. And so if we're able to support their effort and build that capacity, it doesn't have to only live in the school. So it doesn't only have to live that 8 to 3 time. It's who our students are all the time. Because we know for some of our students, that 8 to 3 time is not really when the most learning happens. It happens outside of that space. And so if we're able to build capacity, then we're making sure that students are really getting their needs met throughout their experience in the community.